Okay, so Christmas is coming and it's time to build a budget gaming PC. Welcome then again to Tech It Out, and this time we are building a budget gaming PC for a younger person, shall we say, and this is a very budget, very low cost system with minimal specs to play most average and ordinary games. We're not talking about the blue chip games, that really high end stuff. We're talking about the type of things that young people will be playing. I don't know, PUBG and that type of thing. So we've got some boxes here which I'm going to unbox. We've got the NX100 there from Antec as our base, our box, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. But first let's get this box unwrapped, and in fact let's get this open first. I don't think I need a knife for this one, do I? Okay, and then here we have 300 to 867 megabytes per second, 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz, USB 3 Wi-Fi antenna. So it's an AC1200, basically dual band, and this will be needed because I know the young person's room that this is going into is a little bit further away from the hub, the Wi-Fi hub, and it needs to have something decent to actually pick up the signal. So we've got that. Let's put that to the side. Next then, I have opened the top, but I haven't unpacked it yet. Okay, lots of wrapping. In here we have a ASRock A320M HDV revision 4, and it's an A320 for the Ryzen 300 or Ryzen 3000 CPUs. So desktop 2000 ready, HDMI out, Ryzen, Athlon, blah blah blah. Supports Athlon 2XXGE series, AMD Raven Ridge 2 ready. And then on the back, what have we got there? Ultra M.2, so it's M.2 ready as well. We won't be using the M.2 on this, we'll be using an SSD, a standard drive. It's got the normal I/O with the USB 3, USB 2, the PC2, if I remember the name rightly, for the keyboard and mouse, which nobody ever uses now. DVI out, which is handy. D-sub, HDMI, USB 3.1 at Gen 1, USB 3.1 Gen 1 there, plus the gigabyte LAN audio out. So basically it's got everything that's needed for a budget system. Solid capacitor design, Elna audio caps, triple monitor ready. Don't think we'll be using that quite yet. Windows 10 Radeon, it's all the usual stuff. You've probably seen these boards before. So that's the main board that we're using. Next, we've got some Vengeance memory, LPX 2x8 gigabyte, 2400 megahertz. Now I know Ryzen works better with faster memory, but this is a budget system build again, so we're going with 16 gigabytes of 2400 megahertz. It can be upgraded later, but it will be in dual channel. What's next? More plastic. Okay, we have some compound, thermal compound for the CPU. We have an EVGA 500 watt 80 plus certified power supply. That's heavy. And finally, in this box we have the CPU itself, which is the AMD Ryzen 5. There's a lovely picture of it there, and this is the 3400G. So this has got the built-in graphics. Now that's another thing about this build. I do have a spare graphics card here if it's not good enough, but this has got VEGA graphics built in. So I'm hoping that this will work adequately as a budget build without having to put a graphics card in. And then when graphics cards become available again, sometime in the new year probably, we can look at actually getting a graphics card put in there as well, a budget one. 1650, 3060 Ti is the best one at the moment. So something similar to that. Let's get this box out of the way. So that's the internals then. Just gonna turn the screen on the mic so that we can actually see everything and I can see what I'm doing here, make sure everything's in shot. Okay, so we've got the Ryzen, power supply, memory, thermal compound, the motherboard, and the antenna for the Wi-Fi. All I need to unbox now is the case. Now you may be wondering, what about the hard drive? Well, I've got that separately. That's one I had already, and I'll show you that in a little while when we start doing the build. So carefully, without hitting my camera, I'm going to try and turn this box over and not do a Linus Tech Tips and drop everything. Slide the whole lot out. Get another box out of the way. And then we can have a look at the actual box itself, the PC case. Now then, which way up is this? I think that's the bottom. So I'll just put my hand into there. Drop that down. Take that off. And then turn it over. And the big reveal, as if you haven't seen one before, there's the PC case that we're going to use, the NX100. Again, chosen because it's a good quality case at a very reasonable price. It comes with USB 3, USB 2, two of them. In there, that looks like a card reader. I'm not sure if it is or not. Oh no, it's the, is that the reset button? I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to have a look. Let's see if I can see what it says on there. Yes, a TF card reader. I didn't realise it had that. Power reset, power on off, and a blank button there which doesn't do anything. Okay, so it's got plexiglass side. Let's get this open so you can see inside. Okay. Okay. They put these on really tight. I wonder they haven't damaged the plexiglass. Just check that actually. Make sure they haven't. No, it looks okay. Okay, so it's a, I don't know if you can see there, but it is a smoked plexiglass. We're just going to put that to the side a moment. And there's the internals of the case. It's a nice looking case. It's got a shroud for the power supply, all the wiring, USB 3 hub. It comes with one fan, no fans in the front. I've got fans here as well, ready to go in. The other thing I'm going to have to check before we start is the positioning of the risers. So let's get this tidied up and then we can make a start on putting this together, checking it's all working, and then putting it into the case. Okay, so let's make a start at unboxing this lot then. I'm going to unbox the power supply first. We'll get that plugged in, out of the way and ready. So this is our EVGA power supply. Everything's stuck down. So in the box we have a little user manual, off the drawer of obscurity with that. We have the power block itself, and oh no, that's stuck to the top of there rather cleverly. Some mounting screws, power cord, and this isn't a modular supply, this is a fixed supply, so that's the actual supply itself. Looks quite nice actually. It's really heavy, I can assure you of that. And that goes there. So that's the power supply, and I can get that put to the side and plugged in ready for testing. So let's move that across over there. The next thing we're going to open is the motherboard itself, the ASRock A320M HDV revision 4, as I said already. In the box then, as usual, you've got your M.2 screw, backplate, you have SATA cables, you have your user manual and driver disc. Again, I'll be downloading the drivers online rather than using this, so I got the newest drivers. And over to the drawer of obscurity with all this again then. Off it goes. And then underneath here we have the motherboard itself. We close the box. And then we can actually use the box to put the motherboard on for the test in. So let's have a look inside. There's a nice little motherboard, that. So on the motherboard there we have all the connections that we've already gone through. We have 1x4 PCIe, 1x16 PCIe, your socket, your M.2 connector there, and then you've got your USB 3 out, USB 2s, power connector and all the rest, and also another power connector there for the CPU if it's needed. Okay then, so that's that part done. The next out of the box will be, let's have a look, I think we'll take the memory out next, shall we? Let's get this out. So we've got 2 sticks of Corsair Vengeance DDR4. So that's there. We've got, put that ready because we're going to need that in a moment. Now then, the CPU itself. We open it up. The last PC build I did was my main PC, my big upgrade from what was it before? It was the Blue Angel, wasn't it? The Blue Angel was my first, and then the upgrade was Quince, which is the one I still use now. More bits of information off the drawer of obscurity with them. Now the nice thing about this CPU is it does come with a cooler as well. So there's the CPU and then a couple of stickers as well. 3400G with the built-in graphics. And here's the cooler. So again, it's the standard cooler. We don't need anything else. It's pre-applied paste on it. Yeah, I don't like the look of that. I think I'll put my own paste on that as well. So I'll put that to the side a moment. And then we can start actually putting this together now. So if I pull this forward, and hopefully it's in shot. Let's try and zoom in a bit. The first thing we need to do then is install the CPU itself. So I'll just unhook the socket and then gently open it up. Now on the socket you've got your little corner there, which always lines up with the same corner on the CPU. So hopefully I've got this right, and this should just slot in. I'm not going to force anything in case I haven't got it right. Let's just double check on this. I think I had it back to front, didn't I? There we go, it just dropped in, so I know it's right now. No forcing anything. So down it goes. And that's the CPU. Next, we're going to put the memory in. So we've got the two sticks, and they're single-sided hooks on it. So all we have to do is just slide it into one side. Make sure it's down and in. And then slide it into the other side and make sure it clicks like that. So that's one. I'm lifting the board up so I can put my fingers underneath it to give it a bit of support while I press the memory in so I don't bend the board. So that's the memory fitted. Okay, so now we got the memory in. The next thing is to put the power supply, plug that in. I'm going to put some thermal paste onto the CPU, clean off the thermal paste which is on the cooler already, and while I do that, I'll just stop while I do that, and then I'll come back once I've got it all ready for this to be fitted. Bit of compound right in the middle. Everybody will say no, you have to spread it out or whatever. I've done it this way for years, and so far it's so good. I've just realised though there's one other thing I do need to do, and that is to remove the standoffs, because these are for a different type of cooler. Now, having done that, I'm fairly sure, yeah, that's good. The standoffs are there ready. All we need to do now then is to position this correctly. So I'm going to have to turn it that way so that the AMD is pointing this way, I think, by the looks of it. Now they're the same width either side. They may not be. Yeah, that's right. And then just make sure that everything lines up. All four are lined up, and then we can start. Just make sure that they're lined up. Yep, we can start screwing them down. Remember to support the board when you're doing this as well. And finally, that's tight. And then we plug the power supply for the fan in. I've got that the right way around. And it's ready for it's first power on. So let's get the monitor set up and we see if it boots into post in the BIOS. Okay, so everything's now ready to go. I have also plugged in the CPU power and a keyboard and mouse, so it just remains to see if it will boot up. So on with the power supply, just short power button, fans are spinning up, always good. Now, will we get anything on the screen? That's the main thing. And there we go, booted into the BIOS. So everything's fit and ready to be put into the case. So that's the next step then, fitting it into the case, putting the SSD in, and then installing the operating system. Let's get on with that part. Okay, so we're back again. I've got the fan in place now and the SSD is in place. I have plugged in the USB 3 and I've got the cable headers ready there. I'll be putting those in a minute. I'll have to move those down a bit, I think. They're a bit too high there. So now we plug the HD audio and USB in. So HD audio's at the back. And it's that one there. Make sure that's in properly. And then USB. Okay, so this is really silly. That should be, that's a USB and that's a USB, but that's not. And I'm not sure what that is. So it does not match the pins on the plug. So what I'm going to have to do is take it back through, bring it out here, and then plug it in there instead. So that's in place. Unfortunately, there is no better way of doing this. The positioning of the holes on this case is terrible. The power wire hole is useless because you can't get the power wire through with the motherboard in place, and all the slots, these are not so bad this side, but all these here for the bottom, why isn't this further over here, or why isn't there another one further over so you could actually have this wire running through? Okay, I'm just going to put these other last little cables in place, and then we'll have a look at the solution I came to as well, because there's only 2 fan headers on this motherboard. And now we've got 3 fans. Okay, as I said, there was no third actual pinout for the front fan. So I've got a fan splitter here with a power supply. I've put some tape over it because I don't want the back touching it and possibly shorting anything out on the spare pins, because this is an 8-way splitter, so there's plenty of room for more fans. All I've got to do now really is finish off a little bit of cable management on the back and put the back case back on. So that's the SATA cable plugged in, all the control wires are plugged in, the fan wires are plugged in, the power wires plugged in, USB and audio, everything's in place. So the question is now, will it start again? We have tried it once and it did start. So let's get the monitor back and plug everything in, and we'll see if it starts a second time. So let's see if she'll start up. And we've got post. So now I have to install the operating system, and then we'll do a little benchmark after that and it'll be all complete.